Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly forgotten why you went there? Or found yourself staring at someone you've known for years, waiting for their name to come back to you? Maybe you set your keys down just a few minutes ago, only to spend the next 10 minutes searching the house. Most people shrug these moments off as a normal part of getting older. They assume memory naturally fades with age and that nothing can be done about it. But after spending years working with older adults, I've learned something that completely changed the way I look at the aging brain. I'm Dr. Sofia, a neurologist who has spent more than a decade helping adults protect their memory and stay mentally sharp. During that time, I met people in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s whose minds were remarkably clear. They remembered names, birthdays, family stories, and conversations from decades ago with incredible accuracy. What fascinated me wasn't their age, it was what they were doing differently. They weren't relying on expensive supplements or miracle treatments. Instead, many of them practiced a few incredibly simple daily movements that gently stimulated important areas of the brain. The routine took only about 1 minute, yet it consistently appeared in the lives of people whose minds remained active well into later life. This introduction closely follows the organization and framing of the uploaded source. Today I'm going to show you 5 simple brain activation exercises that target areas involved in memory, focus, balance, and mental clarity. By the end of this video, you'll also see how these movements can be combined into one easy 60-second routine that fits into almost any day. 1 minute may not sound like much, but sometimes the smallest habits produce the biggest long-term changes. Memory decline rarely happens overnight. According to the source, it usually develops gradually. It may begin with forgetting small details, losing your train of thought during conversations, taking longer to find the right words, or feeling mentally exhausted by tasks that once felt effortless. Many people blame stress, poor sleep, or simply getting older. While those factors certainly matter, the source suggests these experiences may also reflect areas of the brain receiving less stimulation over time. It uses the analogy of a plant that slowly loses its vitality until someone begins watering it again. The brain, according to the source, can respond in a similar way when it receives regular stimulation, even if that stimulation lasts only a minute each day. Let's begin with the first exercise, and I'll admit it surprises almost everyone. Toe movements. It sounds unusual to start with your feet when we're talking about memory, but the source explains there's an interesting neurological reason behind it. The toes communicate with areas of the nervous system involved in balance and coordination, particularly the cerebellum. Although many people associate the cerebellum only with movement, the source describes it as also contributing to functions such as attention and focus. When you intentionally move your toes, you're encouraging these neural pathways to become active again. Think of it like turning on the lights in a room that has remained dark for years. The room was always there, you simply hadn't switched the lights back on. That's the analogy used throughout the source to explain why such a small movement may have broader effects than people expect. The exercise itself is remarkably simple. Sit comfortably in a sturdy chair. Lift all of your toes for several seconds before gently pressing them back into the floor. Then slowly spread your toes apart as much as you comfortably can before relaxing them again. Repeat this sequence calmly for about 1 minute while paying close attention to the movement rather than rushing through it. According to the source, the goal isn't physical effort, but conscious neurological stimulation. One patient story describes an older man who struggled with balance and felt increasingly nervous about walking without support. After consistently practicing this toe routine, he reported feeling steadier on his feet, and, perhaps even more surprisingly, mentally clearer during the day. The source also references research from the University of Tokyo, describing improvements in memory, balance, and coordination among older adults who practiced this type of exercise over several weeks, compared with those who did not. This description reflects the patient example and research framing presented in the uploaded script. At first glance, moving your toes may seem far too simple to matter, but that's exactly why so many people overlook it. We often assume that improving brain health must involve complicated technology, difficult workouts, or expensive programs. Yet the source repeatedly emphasizes that meaningful stimulation can begin with ordinary movements, performed consistently and with intention. And as you'll see next, the second exercise builds on that same principle by focusing on something almost everyone ignores every single day: how freely the neck allows blood to reach the brain. Now let's move to the second exercise, and this one focuses on something your brain depends on every second of every day: healthy blood flow. Gentle neck movements may seem too simple to make a difference, but the source explains that the neck serves as an important pathway between your heart and your brain. Over the years, poor posture, stress, long hours of sitting, and reduced mobility can leave the muscles around the neck feeling tight and stiff. The source compares this to bending a garden hose. When the hose is pinched, water can no longer flow freely. In much the same way, reduced mobility around the neck may affect how comfortably blood circulates toward the brain. While this exercise isn't presented as a cure for memory problems, the source suggests it may help support mental clarity by encouraging gentle movement and improving circulation. That's why it appears so early in the routine. Rather than forcing difficult stretches, the emphasis is on slow, controlled movements performed comfortably and consistently. Here's how the source describes the exercise. Sit upright in a comfortable chair with your shoulders relaxed. Slowly turn your head toward one side until you reach a comfortable position, then return to the center before repeating on the opposite side. Next, gently lift your chin as though you're looking toward the ceiling for a few seconds before returning to neutral. Finally, lower your chin toward your chest without forcing the movement. The entire sequence takes only about 30 seconds, and according to the source, repeating it twice each day creates a full minute of gentle stimulation. Many people report that these slow movements leave them feeling mentally refreshed, less tense, and better able to concentrate. Whether the improvement comes from increased awareness, improved circulation, or simply taking a mindful pause, the source emphasizes that consistency matters far more than intensity. The third exercise surprises even more people because it involves one of the smallest muscles in the body, the tongue. At first, it sounds almost too unusual to take seriously, but according to the source, the tongue contains an extraordinary number of nerve endings that communicate directly with brain regions involved in speech, language, and memory. Every deliberate movement sends signals that activate neural pathways responsible for verbal expression and cognitive processing. The source compares this to giving those areas of the brain a gentle internal massage. Instead of stimulating muscles through physical strength, you're stimulating communication between different regions of the nervous system. For older adults who sometimes struggle to find the right word, remember names, or clearly express their thoughts, the source presents this exercise as another way to keep important brain circuits active. The movement itself is simple and requires no equipment. Sit comfortably with good posture and slightly open your mouth. Extend your tongue forward as far as is comfortable, holding it there for a few seconds before relaxing. Next, move your tongue toward one cheek, then toward the other. After that, gently press it against the roof of your mouth for several seconds before relaxing again. Finally, slowly move your tongue in circles inside your mouth in one direction and then the other. The complete sequence takes about 30 seconds, and according to the source, repeating it twice provides a full minute of neurological stimulation. The emphasis isn't speed, but deliberate, controlled movement while paying attention to each position. The source notes that many people find this routine particularly helpful when they feel mentally sluggish or notice themselves searching for words more often than they used to. What makes these first three exercises interesting is that none of them require strength, expensive equipment, or long workouts. Instead, they focus on awakening areas of the brain through slow, intentional movement. The source repeatedly reminds viewers that the goal isn't physical exhaustion, it's neurological engagement. Just a few minutes of mindful practice each day may help maintain communication between the brain and body as we age. But the next exercise targets another system that many people rarely think about until something goes wrong. It involves a part of the body that influences not only hearing, but also balance, spatial awareness, and the ability to move confidently through the world. Now let's continue with the fourth exercise, one that many people overlook because they don't realize how much the ears contribute to healthy brain function. Most of us think of our ears only as organs for hearing, but the source explains that they also contain an essential part of the vestibular system, which helps control balance, spatial awareness, and coordination. As we grow older, many people begin feeling slightly unsteady without understanding why. They may drift while walking, hesitate when turning, or lose confidence moving through unfamiliar places. According to the source, gently stimulating the ears may help activate neurological pathways connected to these important functions. The goal isn't to apply force or create discomfort. Instead, it's about sending gentle sensory signals that encourage communication between the brain and the body's balance system. The exercise is remarkably easy to perform. Sit comfortably and gently hold both ears between your fingers. Slowly pull upward for a few seconds before releasing. Next, pull outward to the sides without using excessive pressure. Then gently pull downward and finish by making small circular massage movements around each ear with your fingertips. The entire sequence takes only about 30 seconds. The source recommends repeating it twice daily to create approximately 1 minute of gentle stimulation. Many people notice that their ears become warm, their facial muscles relax, and they feel more alert afterward. According to the source, this simple routine may help support balance, circulation around the head, and sensory awareness by engaging the vestibular system through light, controlled movement. We've now reached the fifth and final exercise, but it's really more than a single movement. It's the complete 1-minute brain routine that combines everything you've learned so far. Rather than performing each exercise separately throughout the day, the source explains that they can be blended into one continuous sequence. Think of an orchestra. A single instrument can sound beautiful by itself, but when every instrument plays together in harmony, the result becomes something far more powerful. The source uses this comparison to explain how stimulating several neurological pathways during the same minute may create a broader effect than performing only one movement alone. While seated comfortably, you begin by moving your toes while gently rotating your neck. Next, continue the neck movements as you add the tongue exercises. Finally, perform the ear massage while completing the tongue movements, allowing each action to flow naturally into the next. The emphasis remains on slow, mindful coordination rather than speed. The source shares the story of an older woman in her 80s who initially believed the routine looked far too complicated. She worried she wouldn't remember all 5 exercises. After seeing how they fit together into a single minute, she decided to give them a try. Several weeks later, she returned with noticeably greater confidence. According to the story, she spoke more clearly, moved with less hesitation, and proudly described remembering a friend's phone number she hadn't thought about in years. While this personal story isn't presented as scientific proof, it illustrates the central message running throughout the source. Small daily habits practiced consistently may produce meaningful changes over time. The routine doesn't promise overnight transformation. Instead, it emphasizes gradual neurological stimulation through repetition. Before finishing, the source offers 3 simple tips that may help you get the most from this routine. First, drink a glass of water before beginning. Since the brain depends heavily on proper hydration, the source suggests this may help support normal brain function during the exercises. Second, practice slow, controlled breathing throughout each movement. Gentle breathing encourages relaxation and helps you stay focused instead of rushing through the routine. Finally, consider playing calming background music if it helps you enjoy the experience. Soft instrumental music or natural sounds may make the minute feel more pleasant, increasing the likelihood that you'll repeat it consistently. The source also highlights 3 common mistakes to avoid: rushing through the exercises, forcing movements beyond a comfortable range, and practicing inconsistently. According to the source, repetition, not intensity, is what gradually strengthens new neural connections. As we wrap up today's video, remember that protecting your brain doesn't always require complicated equipment or hours of training. Sometimes it begins with one intentional minute. According to the source, these 5 gentle exercises, toe movements, neck mobility, tongue movements, ear massage, and the combined 1-minute sequence, are designed to stimulate areas involved in memory, attention, coordination, and mental clarity. They aren't presented as a cure for dementia or memory disorders, nor should they replace medical evaluation if you're experiencing significant cognitive changes. Instead, they represent a simple daily habit that may help keep your brain engaged as part of a healthy lifestyle. Whether you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or beyond, the source ends with an encouraging reminder. The brain retains an extraordinary ability to respond to regular stimulation. Give it 1 minute each day, stay consistent, and allow those small efforts to add up over time.